Greetings, fellow Earth dwellers, and welcome to Curiosity Cubed. Now, you got to be a little curious about this title. Now, some of you might be wondering why I want to talk about elements from manufacturing when in video 1 I basically said we need to stop running schools like factories. That is correct. Yes, we do. But we can't do that overnight. So in the meantime, if these ideas drastically helped factories improve quality and efficiency, just maybe it can also do the same thing for education right now. Curious to see how? Great, let's go! Okay. So how are we going to do this? Well, I've been involved in instructional system design, digital learning design, and teacher training for over 15 years in various parts of the globe. And there was one common denominator: way too many relays. I know I'm not talking about athletics. I'll get some help to explain this from the wonderful words of Peter Drucker in a bit. So why am I proposing a just-in-time approach? Well, as you saw from video 1, our current education model is grossly outdated. The current content development model under this centuries-old pedagogy wastes so much time. Or worse yet, during this COVID, most QA has been scrapped and teachers have had to fend for themselves. So, what are we going to do? We're going to start here. Now, downtime in a factory is when it has stopped functioning. So let me show you what this might mean in terms of education. First, we'll look at content creation pre-COVID, and then we're going to look at post-lockdown, because it's not post-COVID until we have a vaccine and it's been eradicated, right? So we're going to look at pre-COVID and post-lockdown. So start at the top and work down. Defects. Quite a lot of material actually gets pushed out with, we'll say, questionable facts or research backing it up. Not to mention poor spelling, grammar, and graphics. Overproduction. Are you familiar with the term too many cooks spoil the broth? Well, to me, excellent ID is an art form. I'm continually amazed how many education decision makers there are who do not have any kind of curriculum design, training, or background. It's insane. Waiting. Now I'm going to pull up a quote from Peter Drucker about relays. Every time information gets passed from one level to the next, that's a relay. And each time there's the relay, we lose content. Sort of like that game you used to play with students, or even you as a kid, where you whisper something to one person that goes around and comes out as something different. Same thing happens here. So we are wasting way too much time waiting for approval and comments up and down the ladder. Not utilizing input from, in our case, teachers and learners. Why is it when something is not working, the same people who created the problem think they can fix it? Einstein actually thinks different. Why not try talking to the people on the front line? Oh, and another thing here, material from one culture does not seamlessly move to another. And this is speaking from someone who's developed courses all over the globe, okay? Now we go to T, transport. This is moving content. Now it doesn't matter how great your content is if the print materials haven't arrived. I actually started a grade 6 math class recently for the first month of the year without the textbook. Or, in our case, poor Wi-Fi. This is this idea of the weakest link. If you have a class of 30 and 3 or 4 of them don't have broadband and you've got massive files, we have a problem here. Also, having to use, teachers especially having to use outdated computers that can't run or load the material. Inventory. Oh, but we need to use these textbooks because we already bought so many. Oh, we need to use these copies because we made so many. Oh, we have to use this diagram, though it sucks, or this video, though it's outdated, because it came with the lesson. Okay? Let's be smart about this. If we're trying to do digital stuff, this should not be an issue. Then we go down to motion. This is getting content. This is sort of the flip side of waiting. In other words, how have districts organized content for schools? How have schools organized or archived content for teachers? And how easily can teachers access it? Extra processing, slow approvals, or last minute changes. Oh, the number of times I've had to deal with this are killer. Remember Drucker's quote about multiple layers and how much it kills things. Okay, so here's a quick overview of our pre-COVID. Now let me literally jump to the other side and we'll look at post-lockdown. Okay, the new normal. I sure wish we could have a better term than that. So here we go. Now on this side, post-lockdown. Defects. Massive tech issues here. Teachers having tech issues, students having tech issues, last mile issues. This is about connectivity that I touched on before, but here it is huge. Now, a last point here, poor migration from the classroom to the digital landscape equals poor lessons. We'll get into the training about this in a bit. Overproduction here. Too many features means multitasking for teachers and students. What am I talking about? Have you tried doing a course on Zoom? Recently, I did 30 hours of live training, 6 hours a day, 5 straight days, for some government agencies here in Thailand. It was overwhelming, to say the least. I've done lots of corporate training, but this was unique. Zoom is not an LMS. Zoom is a communications medium. So I had to have Zoom open. I had to have another social media open. I had to have all of my resources open. The multitasking needed here for someone who is tech savvy is overwhelming. Can you imagine people who are new to this? Waiting for media to load. Waiting for media to load. Waiting, you get the point, okay? So waiting for media to load. Or for something interesting to happen instead of just a talking head or one graphic for 20 minutes. Ugh. Not utilizing. Now, if you want more info on this, check out the link below from a very interesting discussion series I had with Datri about these specific ideas. So what's happening here is, one, we're not using the people who are really tech savvy and know how to do this because we're not giving them a chance to prototype, which acts as a template for those who are new to using digital learning. Transport. We need more prepared teachers. We probably need more tech savvy teachers. We need more devices and apps. And we need tech, unfortunately, at school and at home that works. Now, you're going to be bombarded with all kinds of new ed tech companies saying, oh, hey, this is all your answer. BS. Okay? There is no one technology that is going to answer all of this because we're still stuck with this old pedagogy system. Inventory. This is killer. Why? Well, if you're using old videos or old material when a student is at home online and they can Google the more updated stuff quicker, they're going to start thinking, why do I need a teacher in the first place? The other problem with this is making teachers use old tech from school. Now, you're going to hear me repeating myself because these are not all individual things. Think of each of these as an 8-sided octagon or one side of an octagon. They all are interrelated to each other, and a breakdown in one impacts all the rest. Motion, migration of content. from the classroom to the digital landscape takes time. You can't say to somebody, oh, do a course in 10 minutes. You've got all the information, just throw it online. Doesn't work that way. There's a ton of links down below of my 2-minute migration series on this YouTube channel you can check out. Extra processing. One is technology processing. If you're using a lot of graphics, you got to be aware of this. Who's going to be able to run it? Multiple apps and portals need to be open so that you are constantly jumping from one thing to the other. But here's the other part that most people are missing with this, or have learned once they jumped in. You've got to process students once you have them live. Then you have to process students based on what the school needs, and that's probably on paper. Then you have to process students based on what the school needs for the district in terms of grades and marks and everything else. So you've got multiple processes happening in the background of when you are trying to run a class. The bottom line here, this is why WISE, teachers, schools, and districts will start to shift to a just-in-time content creation model. I'm going to give an overview of it now, but video 3 goes into a lot of detail. So let me push this out of the way and pull this all the way down. And let's go. About a decade ago, I came across this book in a bookstore and started to explore what a Lean Six Sigma model of content development would look like. This is an amazing book that brings it into the service world, but I took it one step further into the education world. And it's centered around this concept of a continuous process improvement model. And this is now where the QA people, who I may be annoyed earlier, can now jump back on board. In other words, it's a system that builds in an ability to make small or large changes quickly on a continuous basis based on the needs of the learner, the school, the teacher, or the community. Okay, so we're going to start with performance excellence, which in our case is going to be based on future workforce needs. Now, remember these two from video 1? If you haven't seen it, the link is down below. So this one is post-World War I. The bottom one is since the 90s. Biggest difference in our workforce is the knowledge economy. And on that note, I'm going to bring up Mr. Drucker again, who saw way back in the beginning of the web, or shortly after, in late 90s, early O's, of how this is going to switch to a knowledge economy and what position these people should be put in. Okay? B, we utilize an agile ADDIE approach to content development based on learner needs. Now, I'm going to do an entire video on actual how to do this, and that is video 3. Many of you are familiar with ADDIE. Some of you with a tech background might be familiar with Agile. Basically, I'm saying we can combine the two, and that's how we can have this process happen. Check out video 3. Leadership. So, schools, districts, and government leaders need to provide the training and resources needed. Now, this is nothing new. We've been saying the same thing all along. But here's the thing. If this is the new normal, one, are education programs and universities adapting to do it? And two, kind of resources are being made available to teachers now or in the future to be able to create excellent lessons. All of this leads to this huge value add, not necessarily in economy, though it will help the economy, because it's going to help communities. Why? By meeting the needs of the first 3. If A is dealing with workforce needs, B is dealing with learner needs, and 3 is dealing with the organization needs, then we're going to move around and we're going to meet community needs. And this is not an A, B, C, D, and stop. This is a continuous process improvement model. Okay, just about done. So let me push this out of the way. Now, to feed your curiosity about video 3, I want you to consider this question. What if schools could not reopen until September 2021. That has got to make you curious. Check out the next video.